and gentlemen, Gaalen Engen.
Hi. Getting on the mic. There we go. I grew up in a small town. I could run across town in about 5 minutes. 5 minutes. There were no homeless people. Everyone that lived in McGrath had to make an effort to be there, never mind actually getting there. So everyone had a home to go to every evening. So when I moved out to the lower mainland in the early 80s and then on to Vancouver, my world turned upside down. Who are these people? They're sprawled out on the pavement and their clothes are all messed up and there's grease and there's dirt and they stink. Well, some of them do. They're drunk. Well, some of them are. They're on drugs. Well, some of them are. Some of them are crazy. But all of them are asking me for money so they can sustain themselves because they've lost the ability. So what am I going to do? Well, I thought I had been raised as a charitable individual, and from my understanding, there are 4 things that you can do. There are 4 options that you can exercise when somebody comes to you and asks you for money so they can keep themselves alive. 1, don't give them anything. 2, give them money. 3, give them food. 4, actively intervene in their life. Change the course of their existence. Amplify their perception so they have the strength at one point in their life. You give them the opportunity that they need to lift themselves up from where they are right now. I don't have time for option 4. I have family and friends that I need to be able to reserve that for. So what is charity to a stranger in this situation? Well, for me, I determined it was food, money, or nothing. Well, I thought that nothing wasn't really productive. I thought food and money would probably actually make the charity work. This had to be effective. So I gave, and I gave a lot, and continually, for an extended period of time. Now, I got a little disappointed near the end of it because I never experienced that moment where I handed over a little bit of money to somebody and they actually grasped it from me and stood up and said, "Oh, that was the last payment. That was all I needed. You have given me life. I am now going to rejoin society and become a contributing member. Thank you very much." Never happened. So I thought, okay, this is not really effective, this isn't working, because if I'm going to actually be charitable, it has to be effective. So I changed my tactic. I decided to close the scope of individuals that I would actually deal with. And everyone that I gave money to, I wanted to talk to. I needed to know who they are. I needed to know what their name was. I needed to know where they came from. I needed to know their families. And over a period of time, for a select few individuals, I got to know them pretty damn well. Not one of those individuals actually rose up from the street. Every one of those individuals disappeared. So that wasn't effective. So this brings me actually to the first week of March of this year. I'm walking downtown. I'm going along West Georgia heading towards Howe because I work at the actual Vancouver Art Gallery. We're taking down BC House. We put it in. We're removing it. It's the second day. We're returning from lunch and it's actually the first sunny day of spring in this city. At least the one that I had experienced. And it was lovely. The wind was going just a little bit. The sun was out. There was people on the street enjoying the day. So me and the 4 guys that I'm working with are walking down the sidewalk and we're laughing, we're yattering back and forth. We're not really paying attention to our surroundings. So it took for me to actually get to the corner of Georgia and Howe before I realized that the sound that had been steadily increasing in volume as I had been approaching this area was actually, I'm getting in on the mic again, a human voice. Now, this human voice was yelling. And it had been yelling so long that it had become completely and utterly hoarse without any sort of strength. But it continued in its fierceness. And what it was a pleading. "Please, can't you help me? I just need to eat. Please, just help me. Why can't you help me?" Wow. It's not something I was used to seeing on my afternoon. So I turned over my left shoulder to figure out where and what was making this sound. And what I saw was an elderly gentleman gesticulating, just like I showed you, to a group of individuals that were standing with me on the corner. And some of them were within 1 foot of this individual. None of them, with the exception of me, even looked at him. So, I looked at him. He had immaculately white hair, and the only reason why I say this is because he was fucking filthy everywhere else. Stuck out like greasy fingers just underneath his cap, just like that. He had a full beard, but it was like that. And his nose was about, well, let's say, making up that much of his face. There was a web of veins and vessels that crossed over it and pulled tightly until flesh poked out in little mounds in between the lines. It was all purple and black. Not very healthy. I also noticed at that moment something dangling from the end of his nose. It was a piece of snot as big as my finger, like my pinky right here as I'm showing you right now, and it's slick. And it was like the weevil of phlegm. It would wiggle and it would wobble, but it would never fall down. That's when I noticed his hands. They were bloated. His palms were like 2 pounds of hamburger beef stuffed into a small cellophane bag and squeezed tight and then tied off with fishing line at weird angles so it looks like it's just about to explode. And from this mass, there were 5 sausage monstrosities that grew from it. It was like the bratwurst signature of ill health. There were veins and splotches and little colors coming up, none of them healthy. So that's when I looked at him and noticed and understood that he was never leaving the street. Ever. This is his home, and this is where he will die. Even if somebody actively intervened, no matter what his game is now, if he's still playing the people, or he's actually crazy and he's really drunk, this is his deathbed. So I reach into my pocket, and I pull out a loonie, and a dime, and a nickel. And I hand it over to him. Now, at this point in my life, that was actually all that I had. Literally, all that I had. And I was embarrassed about giving it to him. Because what the hell is he going to buy that he can eat for $1.15? That's the only reason why I had it still in my pocket. But when I handed it over, he grasped my hand with both of his and squeezed and looked in my eyes. He was weeping. In the same intensity. Thank you! God bless you! Thank you! And oh my God. The pain that I could see that was welling up inside of him, combined with the pain that I knew he was going to experience in no short time, flooded up my arm. So I went all professional and businesslike and leaned in close and I said, "You have a good day." I said it with intent, but you're not going to tear my heart apart. I break his hold and I turn towards the street. The pain is still swirling around inside my chest. I get fucking angry. I don't want to hurt this bad. Not on a day like this. So here I am looking out on the streets of Georgia and how the conduit of the philosophy that can create a situation where a gentleman can stand on a corner and beg for his livelihood, for his living, for his existence, and not even be recognized as standing not less than a foot from you. The light goes green. The hand remains. I'm not supposed to walk. Fuck that. I'm going to rebel. I am going to prove that I can be a warrior. This is going to be my charity. This is going to be my act. If they cannot act, I will act for them. So I stepped out into this crosswalk on a slow but steady pace and kept going as the traffic whizzed past. And then eventually I spotted in the distance the epitome of my enemy. It was a sleek, black, dipped forward, shiny silver-rimmed Mercedes coupe with tinted windows. And the guy behind the wheel had a tight collared shirt, enough bling, Dolce & Gabbana sunglasses, and when we made eye contact, I knew that he made this decision that he was not giving up his right to the road. Because that car was his dick. Well, you know what? He picked the wrong guy to piss off. I didn't stop. I kept walking. He kept driving, I kept walking. He kept driving, I kept walking. He kept driving, I kept walking. Whoosh! He misses me by inches. I keep walking to the other side of the street. But you know what? By the time I reach the sidewalk, I'm elated. I feel vindicated. I am the warrior that has emerged victorious. I came against the enemy. I showed no fear. And I emerged unscathed. I won. I was happy. I thought I had finally found what I would consider to be a charitable act. As my friends joined me on the other side of the street, we walked across the lawn to get to the actual gallery itself. And as I look down at my feet, I'm still feeling pretty cocky, but I see the lawn that we're treading upon, and I turned to one of the guys that had seen me walk across the street, and I said, "So this is your idea of rebellion?" And he laughed. And I laughed too, because I thought I had the upper hand. I thought I was the strong one. I thought I was the guy that was making all the differences. Well, as we were walking up the steps to the gallery itself, that was when it finally sunk in. The reason why I stepped off the sidewalk and onto the pavement and across the road and put my life in serious jeopardy wasn't because I was a warrior. It wasn't because I was a soldier. It wasn't because I was fighting the good cause. It was because I was a coward. When the pain of that man radiated up my arm, and I knew for a surety that I could not and would not help him, I had to run. I couldn't live with that. And so I stepped off into the street and tried, for some ridiculous reason, to commit suicide. So, I'm left still figuring out what charity is and what I can actually do to help. Thank you.